The great museum on Vastara Prime was filled with visitors from across the galaxy. Beings of all shapes and sizes crowded into the main hall. Some had fur, some had scales, and some were made of living crystal. They all came to see something special. Today, the museum would show an artifact that was older than any known civilization. Taemin stood at the back of the crowd. He was a human ambassador, wearing a simple gray suit. Next to him stood Dr. Hee-won, a scientist who studied ancient cultures. She had found this artifact on a dead planet called Remnant 7. Her hands shook slightly with excitement. The museum director was a tall alien named Orthos. He had 4 arms and spoke in a deep voice. He raised all his arms to quiet the crowd. Friends from all worlds. What you will see today is very old. We found it deep underground on a dead planet. Our tests show it is 1400 years old. That is before any civilization we know about. A blue energy field around the display case faded away. Inside was a sword. The blade gleamed like it was brand new. No rust, no damage. The metal had a beautiful pattern of dark and light steel folded together many times. The handle was wrapped in old leather that had somehow survived the centuries. Orthos continued speaking. This blade shows no signs of age. Our best scientists cannot understand what metal it is made from. The way the atoms are arranged is impossible, according to our knowledge. We believe the ancient ones who came before us had technology we cannot imagine. A quiet voice spoke from the back. Pattern-welded steel. Everyone turned. It was Taemin who had spoken. His face showed no emotion. Orthos looked confused. Excuse me, Ambassador? Taemin walked forward through the crowd. His footsteps echoed in the silent hall. The technique is called pattern welding. You heat the steel until it glows. Then you fold it and hammer it flat. Then you heat it again and fold it again. You do this thousands of times. It takes many weeks of hard work. Dr. Hee-won stared at her colleague. She knew Taemin was smart, but this was strange. How did he know so much about ancient metalworking? Orthos sounded annoyed now. Ambassador, you seem to know about old metalworking methods, but I promise you, our scientific tests are very advanced. This is not simple steel. Taemin pointed at the sword. There is writing on it, on the part of the blade under the handle wrapping. Have you translated it? Who? Orthos hesitated. The symbols are unusual. They do not match any language the ancient ones used. They are not from the ancient ones, Taemin said. His voice was still calm, but something had changed in his eyes, something old and distant. The symbols are Hangul, Korean writing from Earth. They say, made by hand and fire, by Taemin. In the year of the red sky, the room became completely silent. No one moved. No one breathed. Orthos whispered, That is impossible. This artifact is 1400 years old. Humans have only been traveling in space for 300 years. Your people only live 70 or 80 years. Yes, Taemin said. I know how long humans usually live. He turned to face all the assembled diplomats and scientists. For a moment, the mask of the modern politician fell away from his face. Something far older looked out through his eyes, something that had seen empires rise and fall. I made that sword, he said simply. On the world you call Remnant 7. We called it New Haven. I lived there. I forged weapons there. And I watched that world die 1400 years ago. The crowd erupted in shocked voices. Aliens spoke in dozens of languages at once. Dr. Hee-won grabbed Taemin's arm. What are you saying? This is crazy. Taemin's point. One of the Erisen. Any lair. This can't, sir. Aliens spoke. But Taemin ignored the noise. He kept looking at the sword. I remember making it. I remember the heat of the forge. I remember folding the steel exactly 8,342 times. I remember the ash falling from the red sky while I worked. I remember giving this blade to a man named Seong Min. He was our best fighter. He carried it for 20 years before he died of old age. Orthos recovered from his shock. This is clearly some kind of mistake or trick. Humans cannot live 1400 years. It is biologically impossible. If my Menasa. If you are right, Taemin said. It should be impossible. But I am standing here. And that is my sword. Security guards moved toward Taemin. They were not sure if he was dangerous or crazy or telling the truth, but they knew this situation was unusual. Dr. Haewon stepped between them and Taemin. Wait. Before you arrest him, let him prove it. The inscription. Remove the handle wrapping and check if there really is writing underneath. Orthos considered this. He nodded to his assistants. They carefully opened the display case and used delicate tools to unwrap the leather from the sword's handle. It took several minutes of careful work. When they finished, everyone could see the metal tang of the blade. And there, carved into the metal in small, precise letters, were symbols. Hangul symbols. Korean writing. A translator in the crowd read them aloud. Made by hand and fire. By Taemin. In the year of the red sky. The silence returned, heavier than before. This was not a trick. The writing was there. It had been under the wrapping for centuries. Orthos looked at Taemin with new eyes. Fear mixed with curiosity. How? That, Taemin said, is a very long story. One that the galaxy needs to hear. Because what happened to me, what happened to New Haven, is going to happen again. Soon. And this time, it will not be just one human colony. It will be worlds across the galaxy. Billions of lives. He turned to the crowd. I did not want to reveal myself this way. I have hidden what I am for over 1,000 years. But time is running out. The same force that destroyed the ancient ones, the same force that killed my world, is coming back. And we have, perhaps, 50 years to prepare. A council member stood up. She was made of living crystal, and her voice sounded like music. You are claiming to be an impossible thing. A human who does not age. A witness to the fall of the ancient civilization. We cannot simply believe this without proof. The sword is my proof, Taemin said. But I have more. I have data stored in secure locations. Records from New Haven. Technology that humans should not have access to yet. And I am not alone. There are others, like me. Other survivors from New Haven who have lived in secret among humanity for centuries. Dr. Haewon felt like the world was spinning. Everything she thought she knew about human history was wrong. How many others? 13 of us left, Taemin said quietly. We scattered across human space after New Haven fell. We have been watching, waiting, guiding humanity from the shadows, trying to make sure your people would be strong enough when the time came. The time for what? Orthos demanded. Taemin looked at the sword one more time. He remembered the man he had been when he made it. Young, mortal, innocent of the weight of centuries. The time to save the galaxy, or watch it die. The museum director took a deep breath. I am calling an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Ambassador Taemin, you will tell them everything. If you are lying, you will face severe punishment. If you are telling the truth. He trailed off, unable to imagine what that would mean. If I am telling the truth, Taemin finished, then everything changes, for everyone. The emergency meeting happened fast. Within 6 hours, the most powerful leaders in the galaxy gathered in the council chamber on Vastara Prime. The room was enormous, built to hold beings of many different sizes and shapes. But today, it felt small and tense. Taemin sat alone at the center podium. one human facing the judgment of 47 alien species. Dr. Hay-1 sat in the observer section, recording everything on her datapad. Her mind raced with questions she could barely process. Counselor Vex leaned forward. He was from the Thalarian Empire, covered in hard, chitinous plates that clicked when he moved. Let us be very clear. Ambassador, you claim to be over 1,400 years old. This breaks every law of human biology that we know. I do not claim to understand it myself, Taman replied. His voice was steady. I can only tell you what I lived through. Tay. A counselor made of crystal spoke next. Her name was Nira, and her voice rang like bells. Then tell us everything. From the beginning. Leave nothing out. Taman took a slow breath. When he spoke, his words carried the weight of centuries. I was born in Seoul, South Korea, on Earth. The year was 1987, by Earth's old calendar. I was a bladesmith. I made knives and swords. My father taught me, and his father taught him. It was our family tradition for many generations. He paused, remembering a life that seemed impossibly distant. I was not famous, not special, just a craftsman, trying to keep an old art alive in a modern world. I made kitchen knives mostly, sometimes decorative swords for collectors. I was good at my work, but there were many smiths, better than me. The council listened in absolute silence. In the year 2247, everything changed. Earth was dying. The climate had collapsed. Resources were running out. Wars were everywhere. The governments of Earth built massive colony ships. They sent them to every planet that might support human life. It was called the Exodus Program, humanity's last hope for survival. Orthos, who sat as technical advisor, spoke up. This matches our historical records. Most of those colony ships were lost. We thought all of them failed. Most did fail, Taemin agreed. But not all. I was selected for colony ship Taejong. We were going to a planet the surveyors called Kepler 442b. We named it New Haven. 3,000 people. Everything we owned. All our hope packed into one ship. He smiled sadly. I brought my forge equipment. My grandfather's hammer and anvil. On a ship where every kilogram mattered, where people argued over bringing photograph albums, I insisted on bringing blacksmithing tools. People thought I was crazy. Why did you bring them? Asked Dr. Hee-won from the gallery. She could not help herself. Because I knew we would need them, Taemin said. Call it instinct, call it luck. But something told me that on a new world, the old ways might matter again. He continued his story. We reached New Haven after 230 years of travel. Most of us were in cryosleep for the journey. We woke up to a beautiful planet. Green forests, clear water, breathable air. It seemed perfect. His expression darkened. It was not perfect. The automated survey probes had missed something. Something dangerous. We called them the Devourers. Several council members reacted to that name. The Devourers were legendary, an ancient species of hunters that had destroyed countless civilizations before mysteriously vanishing 600 years ago. They attacked us in the first month, Taemin said. Massive creatures, intelligent and vicious. Our weapons worked at first. Guns, energy weapons. But ammunition runs out. Power cells deplete. Within a year, we had lost half our people, 1,500 dead. He looked down at his hands. That is when I started forging. Steel does not run out of ammunition. Fire does not need power cells. I made swords, spears, axes, knives. I taught others how to work metal. We fought with everything we had. Primitive weapons against advanced predators. Counselor Vex sounded skeptical. How did you survive? 2DA. C. R. Consular. Determination, Taemin said simply. And luck. In our second year, the planet's volcanic system activated. Ash filled the sky. The atmosphere turned red. We thought it was the end of everything. But the devourers could not hunt in the ash storms. It gave us time to build walls, to fortify our settlement, to prepare. The year of the red sky, Dr. Haewon whispered, understanding. Yes. That is when I made the sword you found. My finest work. I gave it to a man named Seong Min. He was our champion. Our protector. He carried that blade for 20 years and killed more devourers than anyone else. Counselor Nira's crystal form seemed to shimmer. 20 years. But you claim 1400. What happened in the years between? Taemin's face became grim. Something no one expected. Something that changed everything. He pulled up data on the holographic display. Ancient readings and sensor logs. In the 37th year of our colony, the planet's magnetic field began behaving strangely. Our instruments detected anomalies, temporal distortions, fractures in space itself. The scientists said we had built our colony on top of some kind of dimensional weak point. Temporal distortions? Orthos leaned forward with interest. We started experiencing what we called time echoes, Taemin explained. You would see your reflection doing something before you did it. Dreams would come true the next day. Some people aged faster than normal, some aged slower, and some of us stopped aging completely. The council chamber erupted in whispered conversations. This was beyond anything they had expected. Taemin raised his voice. At first, only a few people were affected. I was one of them. So was our colony leader, a woman named Ji Woo, a farmer named Byung Ho, a teacher called Da Un. About 30 of us total. We thought we were sick. We isolated ourselves, waiting to die. But you did not die, Dr. Haewon said. No, we lived, year after year after year. Seong Min, the warrior who carried my sword, died at 83 years old. I looked exactly the same as I had at 35. Taemin's voice became hollow. Imagine that. Imagine staying young while everyone you love withers and dies. Imagine centuries of that. It was torture. Counselor Vex asked the obvious question. Did you study this phenomenon? Try to understand it? For centuries, yes, Taemin replied. He brought up more data, complex equations and sensor readings. Those of us who stopped aging became the keepers of knowledge. We built underground research facilities. We preserved everything. And slowly, we began to understand. The holographic display showed a three-dimensional model of quantum fields and temporal flows. New Haven sat at the intersection of what we now call a quantum convergence point. Time flowed differently there, not smoothly, but in complex patterns. We were caught in a kind of temporal loop, but one that still moved forward. We experienced every one of those 1400 years, but the planet existed partially outside normal space-time. That explains why the ruins appeared so ancient, Orthos said thoughtfully. And why the sword survived, in perfect condition. Quote, exactly, Taemin nodded. But it gets worse. We discovered that convergence points exist throughout the galaxy, and they activate in waves. The last major activation was 1400 years ago. Counselor Nira stood abruptly. You are saying the predecessors did not simply die out? They transcended, Taemin said. They built machines to harness the convergence points, to ascend to higher dimensions. But the process destroyed their worlds, left them barren and dead. And 1400 years ago, another wave of convergences activated across the galaxy. The implications hung in the air like a weight. Dr. Haewon felt cold. Including on New Haven. Yes. For 1300 years, we studied the convergence point beneath our colony. We learned everything we could, and then, in year 1312 of New Haven, the convergence reached critical mass. We had to make a choice. 4. Taemin's eyes grew distant. Ascend with the others who had gone before, becoming something beyond human, or flee and remain mortal. Most of the immortals chose ascension. They walked into the convergence and became something else. Something I could not follow or understand. But you did not go, Counselor Vex observed. 16 of us fled, Taemin said. We took the last working ship. We loaded it with data and artifacts, and we escaped before the planet tore itself apart. We scattered across the galaxy, agreeing to hide what we were, to integrate back into human society when we found it again. He gestured to himself. I became an ambassador. I have lived many lives, using makeup and careful timing to fake aging. Every few decades, I pretend to die and return as my own descendant. I have been doing this for over 1,000 years. Dr. Hee-won stood up. Her voice shook. Are there others? Right now? In positions of power? Taemin met her eyes. Yes. 13 of us survived the journey. 3 died over the centuries from accidents. The rest are hidden throughout human space. We have been guiding humanity carefully, trying to prevent the mistakes of the past. Guiding us? Dr. Hee-won's anger flared. You mean manipulating us, controlling human development for your own purposes? No, Taemin said firmly. Helping you survive, because the next convergence wave is coming. And this time, it will not be just one colony. It will be major worlds. Billions of lives at risk. The council chamber fell silent again. Finally, Counselor Nira spoke. When? Taemin looked at each council member in turn. 50 years. Perhaps 60 at most. And among the worlds in danger is Earth itself. The session ended in chaos. Council members shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Some demanded that Taemin be arrested and studied. Others wanted him put on trial for fraud. A few of the wiser ones simply sat in shocked silence, understanding that everything had changed. Dr. Hee-won walked through the museum gardens afterward, trying to clear her head. The gardens were beautiful, filled with plants from many different worlds. She found Taemin sitting by a fountain, staring at the water. You knew, she said without greeting. When you assigned me to excavate Remnant 7, you knew what I would find there. End quote. Taemin did not look up. I suspected. The orbital scans showed the right geological patterns. I remembered where we had buried our archive vault. I needed someone I could trust to lead the expedition. You used me. Her voice was angry. You manipulated me into revealing your secret. Yes. He finally looked at her, and his eyes held deep regret. I am sorry, Hee-won. But the truth had to come out. The next convergence wave is approaching. Humanity needs to know. The whole galaxy needs to know. She wanted to stay angry, but the weight of what he was saying pushed her anger aside. How many convergence points exist? We have identified 47 in this galactic sector alone, Taemin said. Most are on dead worlds, planets that were once home to the predecessors. But 3 are on worlds with living populations right now. The implications hit her like a physical blow. Which planets? Earth is one. The Velthron homeworld is another. And the third is Vastara Prime. This world we are standing on, right now. Dr. Hee-won sat down heavily on a stone bench. That is why the Exodus happened. Earth was not just dying from climate change and pollution. No, Taemin confirmed. The convergence point beneath the Pacific Ocean started activating in the year 2230. It caused earthquakes, magnetic field disruptions, extreme weather. Humanity blamed itself for all of it. Thought it was all caused by industry and carbon emissions. But the planet was beginning its transformation. Is it still happening? Yes, slowly. The convergence is accelerating on a predictable timeline. In 50 to 70 years, Earth will face the same choice New Haven did. Ascend or abandon the planet completely. Dr. Hee-won looked up at him. This man who claimed to have lived through the fall of civilizations. What happens when you ascend? What did those people become? What? Taemin was quiet for a long moment. I do not know exactly. Those who went through the convergence tried to describe it before they left. They said they felt pulled toward something vast, something beautiful and terrible at the same time. They could feel other minds, other beings who had ascended before them. The predecessors were there, they said, waiting, and then they stepped through and vanished. Do you regret not going with them? He looked at his hands. Hands that had hammered steel for 14 centuries. Every single day. But someone had to stay behind. Someone had to remember. Someone had to warn the next generation. That has been my purpose for all these years. The garden entrance chimed. A young Korean woman walked in, her credentials identifying her as Ambassador Sumin from the Terran Trade Authority. But the way Taemin's expression changed told Dr. Hai won everything. You watched the broadcast, Taemin said. The entire galaxy watched it, Sumin replied. Her voice was calm but firm. You put all of us at risk. Us, Dr. Hee-won repeated. You are one of them. One of the New Haven immortals. Sumin studied her carefully before nodding. I was 8 years old when the temporal change took me. I stopped aging at 32. I watched my parents grow old and die while I stayed the same. That was 1100 years ago. Dr. Hae-won felt dizzy. How many? How many of you are hidden in human society? 13, Taemin answered. 3 died over the centuries. 1 in a shuttle accident. 1 in a war. 1 chose to end their own life after 500 years. They could not bear the loneliness anymore. The rest of us are all that remains of New Haven, and you have been manipulating human development for over 1,000 years, Dr. Hye-won said. The anger was back in her voice. Playing God with an entire species. Not manipulating, Sumin corrected gently. Guiding. Suggesting. We never controlled anything. We simply made sure humanity did not destroy itself before reaching the stars, because we knew what was coming. The convergence, Dr. Hee-won said. You said 3 inhabited worlds are in danger. Tell me everything. 1. Taemin pulled up a holographic star map. 3 systems glowed red. Earth, the Velthron homeworld of Velthros, and Vestara Prime. All 3 sit directly on top of major convergence points. All 3 will reach critical activation within 60 years of each other. The scale of it was staggering. 3 of the most important worlds in the galaxy. Earth was the human homeworld, though few humans still lived there. Velthros was home to billions of Velthrans, one of the oldest spacefaring species, and Vestara Prime was the neutral ground where the Galactic Council met. If all 3 were destroyed or transformed, galactic civilization would collapse. That is why you revealed yourself now, Dr. Hee-won realized. Not just for humanity. You need the entire galaxy to work together on this. Exactly, Taemin said. One species alone cannot solve this problem. Even humanity, with all its stubbornness and creativity, cannot do it alone. We need combined resources, combined knowledge. Every species working toward the same goal. Sumin added, we have been preparing for this moment for centuries, slowly pushing humanity towards scientific advancement, making sure we developed the right technologies, ensuring we would be ready to contribute when the time came. What technologies? Dr. Hae-won asked. Taemin brought up new data on the holographic display. Designs for machines she did not recognize. Quantum stabilization fields, temporal anchor points, dimensional mapping systems. Most of this was developed from predecessor technology we salvaged from New Haven. We have been slowly releasing it through research programs, hiding its true origin. Dr. Hee-won studied the designs. Her scientific training kicked in despite her emotional turmoil. These are incredible. With these, you could potentially stabilize a convergence point. Stop it from destroying a planet. That is the hope, Taemin said. But we need time, resources, cooperation from species that have spent centuries distrusting each other. And we need the galaxy to believe that the threat is real. Will they believe? Dr. Haewon asked. Or will they think this is some kind of human trick? Su-min smiled grimly. They will believe. Because in 3 days, another New Haven survivor will reveal themselves. Admiral Hyun-woo, of the Terran Defense Fleet. He has been preparing military contingency plans for decades. He will present evidence that even the most skeptical council member cannot deny. And after that? Dr. Haewon pressed. After that, we introduce them to the others, Taemin said. Dr. Youngmi has been funding convergence research for 200 years through anonymous grants. Counselor Jin Ah has served in galactic government under 4 different identities. Between all of us, we have enough evidence, technology, and resources to prove the threat is real. Dr. Haewon stood up and paced. This is insane. You are asking the galaxy to completely restructure its priorities, to spend unimaginable resources on a threat that will not arrive for 50 years. Most governments cannot plan beyond the next election cycle. That is why we need humanity to lead, Su-min said. Humans are good at facing impossible odds, good at long-term thinking when survival is at stake. The Exodus proved that. Your species evacuated an entire planet over the course of 200 years. That kind of sustained effort is exactly what we need now. Taemin turned to Dr. Haewon directly. I know you are angry. You have every right to be. But I need to know if you will help us. You are one of the most respected xenoarchaeologists in human space. If you verify our claims about New Haven, about the predecessors, others will believe. She stopped pacing. You want me to stake my reputation on a story about immortal humans and dimensional transcendence. I want you to tell the truth, Taemin said simply. Come to Remnant 7 with me. I will show you things your team did not find. Archives we kept hidden. Technology we buried. Proof that everything I have said is real. Dr. Haewon thought about it. Her scientific instincts warred with her emotional reaction. Finally, she made her decision. I will come, but not because I trust you, because I need to know the truth for myself. And if you are lying, I will expose you to the entire galaxy. Fair enough, Taemin agreed. Su-min checked her datapad. The council has scheduled another session for tomorrow. They want to question you more formally. They are bringing in temporal physicists and biologists. They will run every test they can think of. Let them, Taemin said. I have nothing to hide anymore. They can scan me. Take tissue samples. Whatever they need to verify my age. They will also demand proof of the convergence threat, Su-min warned. Then we will give it to them, Taemin replied. He looked at the sunset over the alien garden. Watched civilizations from behind masks. I am tired of hiding. Tired of lying. If the galaxy wants the truth, they will get all of it. Dr. Haewon felt a chill despite the warm evening air. And if they panic? If they cannot handle the truth? Taemin turned to face her, and in his eyes she saw the weight of centuries. The burden of watching worlds die. The loneliness of immortality. Then they will die. All of them. Just like New Haven died. Just like the predecessors died. The convergence does not care if we are ready or not. It is coming. The only question is whether we face it together or separately. He started walking back toward the museum. Come. We have much work to do. And very little time to do it. Dr. Haewon and Su-min followed him through the alien garden, under strange stars, walking toward a future that suddenly seemed far more uncertain and far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. 3 days later, the Galactic Council met again. This time the chamber was even more crowded. Scientists had arrived from every major species. Temporal physicists, biologists, historians. Everyone wanted to see proof of Taemin's impossible claims. Taemin sat at the center again, but he was not alone. Admiral Hyun-woo was a tall man in a Terran Defense Fleet uniform, He looked about 40 years old, but his military records showed he had joined the fleet 300 years ago under a different name. Dr. Youngmi was a small woman with kind eyes. She had published groundbreaking papers on quantum mechanics for the past 2 centuries, always under different identities. Counselor Jinnah was elegant and poised. She had served on various galactic committees for 400 years, though the official records showed her as 4 different people from the same family line. And finally, there was Taemin himself, the bladesmith, who had lived 1400 years. Orthos began the session. We have conducted extensive testing on Ambassador Taemin over the past 3 days. Medical scans, genetic analysis, cellular examination. The results are troubling. He brought up data on the holographic display. His cells show no signs of normal aging, no telomere shortening, no accumulated genetic damage. His body is biologically locked at approximately 35 years of age. Furthermore, we found unusual quantum signatures in his cellular structure, signatures that match readings from the convergence point on Remnant 7. A Thalarian scientist stood up. This proves he is unusual, but it does not prove he is 1400 years old. These effects could have been caused recently. Endon Rengli. Ondon Rengli. This well, Unrengli. Endon Rengli. Admiral Hyunwoo spoke for the first time. His voice was deep and commanding. Then, perhaps this will convince you. He placed a data crystal on the table. These are military records from New Haven. Battle logs, casualty reports, engineering diagrams, all dated from the colony's founding through its final years, all stored on technology that predates modern human spaceflight by 1,000 years. The Council's technical staff analyzed the crystal. After several minutes, they confirmed it was genuine. The data formats were ancient. The storage medium itself was carbon-dated to match Taemin's claims. Dr. Youngmi added her evidence. I have also brought research data from New Haven. Studies on the temporal anomalies. Measurements of the convergence point's growth over 13 centuries. Mathematical models that predicted its final activation to within 3 months of when it actually occurred. She brought up equations on the display. This is mathematics that humanity only developed 200 years ago. Yet these calculations were done 1,300 years ago by people trapped on a dying world, desperately trying to understand what was killing them. The council members whispered among themselves. The evidence was overwhelming. Counselor Nira spoke, her crystal voice cutting through the noise. Even if we accept that you are who you claim to be, what do you want from us? Why reveal yourselves now? Taemin stood. Because the time for hiding is over. The convergence wave is approaching. We have 50 to 60 years before 3 major worlds face destruction. We need the entire galaxy working together to prevent it. How? Counselor Vex demanded. The predecessors had technology far beyond ours. They had thousands of years to prepare, and they still failed. What makes you think we can do better? Because we have something they did not, Doctor. Youngmi said. We have their mistakes to learn from. We have data they never collected. And we have multiple species working together, sharing knowledge and resources. She changed the holographic display to show complex engineering diagrams. The predecessors tried to control the convergence through brute force. They built machines to channel all the energy at once. It overwhelmed their systems and tore their worlds apart. The diagrams showed massive orbital stations surrounding a planet. Quantum stabilization fields. Instead of trying to stop the convergence, we guide it. We create controlled dimensional gateways, allow the energy to dissipate gradually over decades instead of all at once. A scientist from the Velthron delegation stood up. This is theoretical at best. You cannot possibly know if it will work. You are right, Taemin admitted. We cannot be certain. But we have run simulations based on predecessor data. The mathematics work. The physics work. What we lack is the resources and time to build it. Admiral Hyunwoo activated new displays. The Terran Defense Fleet has already begun preliminary construction on the first stabilization platform. We call it ARC-1. It will orbit Earth and provide the foundation for the full network. But we need materials we do not have, technology we have not developed, and most importantly, we need cooperation from species who have those resources. Counselor Vex's plates clicked together thoughtfully. You are asking for an unprecedented commitment. Resources that could build 100 colony ships. Technology sharing that breaks a dozen treaties. Political cooperation between species that barely trust each other. Yes, Taemin said simply. That is exactly what I am asking for. And if we refuse? Asked a delegate from a minor species. Jinnah answered this time. Then Earth dies. Velthros dies. Vastara Prime dies. And with them, galactic civilization as we know it collapses. The economic disruption alone would cause wars. The refugee crisis would be beyond anything in recorded history. Billions would die even on worlds not directly affected by the convergence. The council chamber fell silent. The weight of the decision pressed down on everyone. Dr. He-One stood up from the observer section. I have been to Remnant 7. I have seen the archives Taemin showed me. The evidence is real. New Haven existed. The convergence destroyed it. And the same thing is about to happen again on a much larger scale. She walked to the center of the chamber. I have spent my entire career studying dead civilizations. And I also know that we have a chance to avoid their fate. But only if we act now. Only if we work together. Orthos, who had been silent during most of the session, finally spoke. As the director of the Galactic Preservation Museum, I have access to more predecessor artifacts than anyone. And I can confirm that the technology these humans have provided matches predecessor design principles perfectly. They could not have faked this. He turned to address the full council. I believe them. I believe the threat is real. And I believe we must act. Counselor Nira stood, her crystalline form refracting light across the chamber. The people of my world have a saying. When the stars align against you, you must align with each other. I support this initiative. My government will contribute what resources we can. One by one, other counselors stood. Not all of them. Some remained seated, skeptical or frightened or politically unable to commit. But enough stood. Enough agreed. Finally, Counselor Vex rose slowly. The Thalarian Empire has survived for 10,000 years by being cautious, by not taking unnecessary risks. But I see now that the greater risk is inaction. We will provide industrial capacity and raw materials. Admiral Hyun-woo nodded. Then we have the foundation of an alliance. The Convergence Initiative. Multiple species working toward a common goal. Of survival. There is one more thing, Taemin said. We need to establish research stations at the other convergence points. Study them. Understand the patterns. We have 47 sites to investigate across this sector, Dr. Youngmi added. And we need to search for other survivors. Not from New Haven, but from other lost colonies. If temporal anomalies affected New Haven, they may have affected other worlds too. There may be more immortals out there, hiding as we hid, with their own knowledge to contribute. The Council agreed to form special task forces. Scientists from multiple species would work together. Military resources would be pooled. A galactic emergency was declared, giving the Council special powers to coordinate the effort. As the session ended, Dr. He-One approached Taemin. You did it. You convinced them. We convinced them, Taemin corrected. Your testimony mattered. Your reputation gave us credibility we could not have achieved alone. She looked at the 5 immortals standing together. What happens now? You cannot hide anymore. The whole galaxy knows what you are. Su Min smiled. Then, we stop hiding. We do the work we have been preparing for all these centuries. We build the stations. We guide the research. We help the galaxy survive. Admiral Hyun-woo checked his datapad. The first shipment of construction materials arrives at Earth in 6 days. We need to be there to oversee the installation. Dr. Youngmi was already pulling up research schedules. I have colleagues who have been waiting decades for this moment. Now, we can finally share everything we know. Counselor Jinnah looked thoughtful. The political challenges will be enormous. Keeping this alliance together for 50 years. Managing the fears and ambitions of dozens of species. But it is possible. Taemin looked at each of them. His fellow survivors. His friends across the centuries. For 1400 years, we have carried this burden alone. Now we share it with the galaxy. Whatever happens next, at least we face it together. Dr. Hae-won watched them prepare to leave. These 5 people, who had lived through the fall of civilizations, who had hidden in shadows for centuries, who now stepped into the light to save billions of lives they would never meet. Will it work? She asked Taemin quietly. Can you really stop the convergence? He picked up a datapad showing the designs for Arc 1. I do not know. But 1400 years ago, I forged a sword to help my people survive the devourers. It worked. Now I am going to help forge something much bigger. A network of stations to save entire worlds. Maybe it will work. Maybe it will not. But we have to try. He smiled at her. Besides, humanity is good at the impossible. We always have been. 6 months passed. The galaxy transformed in that time. What started as a desperate alliance became something more. Something hopeful. Dr. Hee-won stood on the observation deck of Arc 1, watching construction crews work in the vacuum of space. Humans worked alongside Velthrons. Thalarians coordinated with crystalline beings. Species that had barely spoken to each other a year ago now shared tools and techniques. The station was massive. 10 kilometers across, built in a ring around Earth's equator. It would be the first of 7 such stations needed to stabilize Earth's convergence point. The ring design allowed quantum field generators to create a stable harmonic pattern. Taemin floated over in zero gravity, moving with the ease of someone who had adapted to many environments over the centuries. The southern anchor point is complete. We are ahead of schedule. Barely, Dr. Hee-won said. We have 50 years of work to compress into whatever time we actually have. The convergence is accelerating faster than your models predicted. I know. He looked out at Earth below them. The planet was beautiful from orbit. Blue and green and white. But we are adapting. That is what humans do best. Admiral Hyun-woo's voice came over the communication system. All teams, prepare for the first synchronization test. This is not a drill. We are activating the completed sections of Arc 1 to test quantum field stability. Dr. Hee-won felt her heart race. This was the moment of truth. 6 months of construction. Resources from 20 different species, all leading to this test. Activation in 30 seconds, announced a Velthran engineer. Taemin moved to stand next to Dr. Hee-won. Whatever happens, thank you for believing in us. For helping make this possible. I did not do it for you, she said. I did it for them. She gestured to Earth below. For the billions of people down there, who do not even know their world is dying. Fair enough. Activation in 10 seconds. The countdown proceeded. At 0, the quantum field generators powered up. Dr. Hae-won could not see the field itself, but the instruments showed it clearly. A shimmering net of quantum energy wrapping around Earth's equator. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sensors began registering data. The convergence point beneath the Pacific Ocean responded to the field. Its energy output stabilized. The chaotic fluctuations smoothed out. It is working, whispered a scientist at a nearby console. Cheers erupted across the communication channels. Humans and aliens celebrating together. 6 months of doubt and fear, released in a single moment of triumph. But Taemin did not celebrate. He studied the readings carefully. We have reduced the convergence energy by 12%. That is good, but we need 7 stations to reduce it enough to prevent catastrophic activation. This is only the beginning. Dr. Youngmi appeared on the video screen. She was on Velthros, overseeing construction of their planetary defense network. Congratulations on Earth. We are watching your readings. They will help us calibrate our own systems. How is the situation there? Dr. Hee-won asked. Challenging, Dr. Youngmi admitted. The Velthron convergence point is more active than Earth's. We may need additional stations. But the work proceeds. Admiral Hyun-woo joined them on the observation deck. I just received word from Vastara Prime. Their first station begins construction next month. We are now working on all 3 critical worlds simultaneously. And the other convergence points? Taemin asked. The ones on dead worlds? Research teams are investigating 43 sites, the Admiral reported. So far, they have found evidence that supports our timeline. The predecessors built similar stabilization networks, but their networks failed because they tried to activate everything at once. We are taking a slower, more careful approach. Sumin arrived, pulling herself along the handrails in zero gravity. The Economic Council just approved funding for the next 5 years of construction. 23 species contributed. Even some who were skeptical at first are now supporting the initiative. Fear is a powerful motivator, Counselor Jin-ah said, appearing on another screen. She was on the Council homeworld, managing the political aspects of the project. When people understand that their world might die, they become very cooperative. Their world. Dr. Hae-won watched Earth below. Somewhere down there, people were living normal lives, going to work, raising families, completely unaware that their planet sat on top of a dimensional weak point that could tear reality apart. Have you told them? She asked. The people on Earth. Do they know what is happening? Taemin shook his head. The Earth government decided to keep it quiet for now. They worry about panic, mass evacuations, economic collapse. They released a story about building orbital solar collectors to provide clean energy. Most people believe it. That is a lie, Dr. Hae-won said flatly. It is a necessary lie, Counselor Jin-ah replied from her screen. At least for now. Once we have more stations complete, once we can show people that we have a working solution, then we will tell them the truth. But not yet. Dr. Hae-won did not like it, but she understood the reasoning. Panic could destroy the project faster than any technical failure. How are the other immortals handling the exposure? She asked. You said there were 13 of you total. I have only met 5, Sumin answered. The others are spread across human space, working on various aspects of the project. Most prefer to stay out of the spotlight. They have spent centuries hiding. The sudden attention is difficult for them. One of them asked me something interesting last week, Taemin said thoughtfully. He asked if we should try to replicate the temporal anomaly that created us. Use it to extend human lifespans. Give people more time to work on the convergence problem. Taemin. Quote, Dr. Hae-won stared at him. Can you do that? Create more immortals? Artificially? Theoretically, yes, Dr. Youngmi said from her screen. We understand the quantum mechanics behind our condition. But it would be dangerous. The process that created us was random, uncontrolled. Trying to replicate it could kill people or create worse problems. And ethically, Taemin added, forcing immortality on people without their consent would be wrong. I would not wish this existence on anyone. The loneliness, the constant loss, watching everyone you love die while you go on. But you have each other, Dr. Hae-won said. The 13 of you. Yes, Sumin agreed. That has made it bearable, knowing we are not alone. But it is still hard. Some days, I miss being mortal. Miss the idea that my suffering would eventually end. The conversation was interrupted by alarms. The quantum sensors detected a surge from the convergence point. Stabilize the field, Admiral Hyunwoo ordered. Redirect power from secondary systems. Aye. The engineers worked frantically. The surge grew stronger. For a terrible moment, Dr. Hae-won thought the station would fail, that all their work would be destroyed. But slowly, carefully, the field adjusted. The surge was contained. The convergence point settled back to its previous level. That was close, someone said. Taemin studied the data. The convergence is learning, adapting to our stabilization field. We will need to continuously adjust our approach. How long can we keep doing this? Dr. Hae-won asked. Constantly fighting to hold it back? 50 years, Taemin said. Maybe more, if we are lucky. By then, we need to have complete networks on all 3 critical worlds, and we need to understand the convergence well enough to either stop it completely or find a way to safely harness it. Dr. Youngmi's expression was thoughtful. There is a third option we have not seriously considered. What if we do not try to stop the convergence? What if we guide humanity through it? Help people ascend in a controlled way? No. Taemin said immediately. We do not know what is on the other side. The people who ascended from New Haven are gone. We cannot communicate with them. We do not know if they are happy, suffering, or even still exist in any meaningful way. But they chose to go. Dr. Youngmi argued. They made an informed decision. Maybe we should give everyone that choice. Admiral Hyunwoo held up a hand. This is a debate for philosophers and ethicists. Right now, we focus on keeping people alive and giving them options. We build the stations, we study the convergence, and when the time comes, we let people decide their own fate. The discussion ended there. But Dr. Hae-won knew it would come up again. As the convergence approached, people would demand answers about ascension, about what it meant to become something beyond human. Weeks turned into months. Construction continued on all 3 critical worlds. More species joined the Convergence Initiative. Research teams made discoveries about predecessor technology that advanced galactic science by decades. Dr. Hae-won found herself working 18-hour days, coordinating research, analyzing data, helping to design the next generation of stabilization fields. She barely slept, but the work gave her purpose. One day, Taemin brought her to the museum on Vastara Prime. The sword he had forged 1400 years ago still sat in its display case. But now, it had a different meaning. It was no longer just an ancient artifact. It was a symbol of human persistence. I have been thinking, Taemin said, looking at the blade, about why I survived New Haven, why I did not age. I used to think it was random, bad luck, a curse. And now, Dr. Hae-won asked, now I think maybe it was preparation. The universe knew the convergence would return. It needed someone to remember, to warn the next generation. So it chose some of us to carry that burden. Dr. Hae-won did not believe in cosmic fate, but she understood what he meant. You have carried that burden for 1400 years. When this is over, when the convergence is stabilized or stopped, what will you do? Taemin smiled. I have not thought that far ahead. For centuries, I have focused only on this moment, on warning the galaxy, on building the alliance needed to survive. What comes after is a mystery. Maybe you could finally rest, she suggested. Maybe. He looked at his hands. The hands that had forged the sword, that had fought devourers, that had built a civilization and watched it die. Or maybe, I will find a new purpose. Maybe all of us immortals will. We have accumulated so much knowledge, so much experience. It would be a waste to not use it for something meaningful. Dr. Hae-won thought about the future. About the massive stations being built around 3 worlds. About the thousands of scientists and engineers working together. about the alliance of species that had formed in the face of existential threat. "You know what the real victory is?" she said. "It is not stopping the convergence. It is this: getting the galaxy to work together, breaking down barriers between species, sharing knowledge and resources. Even if the convergence destroys us, we will have accomplished something unprecedented." Taemin nodded. "Humanity has always been good at bringing people together. Even when we fight among ourselves, we have this ability to unite others around common causes. It is our greatest strength." Taemin. They stood in silence, looking at the ancient sword, a weapon forged in fire and desperation, a tool of survival that had lasted 14 centuries. A reminder that even in the darkest times, humans endured. "The next station goes online in 3 days," Dr. He-Won said. "We should get back to work." "Yes," Taemin agreed. "There is still much to do." They left the museum together. Outside, the sun was setting over Vastara Prime. The sky turned brilliant shades of orange and purple. Across the galaxy, construction continued. Research proceeded. The Convergence Initiative moved forward, one day at a time, toward an uncertain future. But for the first time in 1400 years, Taemin felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. Not certainty. Not confidence. Just the simple hope that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. This time, the galaxy would survive. And as he walked through the alien city alongside Dr. He-Won, surrounded by beings from dozens of worlds all working toward the same goal, he allowed himself to believe that hope might be enough.